Welcome to Cover Stories with Chess Life, the U.S. Chess Federation's podcast that goes behind the scenes and more in depth about each month's Chess Life magazine cover story. Make sure to listen to our family of U.S. Chess podcasts, which includes One Move at a Time on the second Tuesday of each month, where Dan Lucas talks to people who are advancing our mission statement, Ladies Night, which drops on the third Tuesday of each month, hosted by our women's program director, Jennifer Shahadi, and on the fourth Tuesday of each month, Chess Underground, hosted by our assistant director of national events, Pete Karagianis, in which he examines the game's eccentricities, peculiarities, and theoretical novelties. All can be found at the podcast link on Chess Life Online at uschess.org, or you can subscribe via iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. Today's guest on Cover Stories is a man in demand. By my count, Harold Scott is making his third podcast recording today. He's been a guest on Evan Rabin's Premier Chess podcast, along with Grandmaster Joel Benjamin, a feat that he recently repeated in a joint appearance on the Ben Johnson Perpetual Chess podcast show. Today, however, it's just him. Harold is the author of our January cover story about 8-year-old Megan Paragua. Did I say that right?
Paragua, I think.
Paragua.
Yeah.
I'm going to mess that up so badly.
That's okay.
Who has recently become a U.S. chess rated expert at the age of 8. The kids, they just keep getting better.
Mm-hmm.
Megan's uncle is New York Grandmaster Mark Paragua. But as we learned from Harold's piece, she's doing a lot of the hard work to improve on her own. Harold Scott is a chess teacher and a coach currently residing in the Bronx, New York. He's also a FIDE instructor, a U.S. chess senior tournament director, a rated expert, and a writer to boot. His first book, Winning the World Open, is co-authored with Grandmaster Joel Benjamin, and it was released last month. It is an absolutely fantastic read. I think any fan of American chess history and chess lore would do very well to pick it up. So, good morning, Harold Scott. Where am I speaking to you from today?
Oh, I'm in the Bronx here, even though I'm hovering above the earth here.
Yeah, so his you won't be able to see this, but his Zoom screen is he is somewhere up on one of the space stations. It looks like you're looking at a peaceful Europe, which is a nice thing to think about in these very disturbing days.
Yeah, I tell you.
But we're not here to talk about geopolitics because Harold may be qualified. I'm certainly not. But we're here to talk about Megan. So you have the cover story on our March issue, which will be out, at least online versions will be out the same day this podcast drops on Tuesday. So tell us why you pitched us this story about this 8-year-old girl.
Yeah, I was, over the summer, I was playing some tournaments in Queens at the Queen's Chess Club, and that's when I first encountered her, seeing her in person. Actually, I played a game against her brother Dominic, who's rated a lot less than her, and I was lucky to draw that game. And then I actually played her in Princeton, New Jersey, at a Continental Chess Association event in the fall. And so I was aware that she was good, and I did not take the game lightly. And so we played, and I prevailed in the game. But I came away from that game very impressed because she was 8 years old at the time. She turned 9 in December. And she exhibited so much poise at the chessboard. I couldn't help but be impressed. I don't think she got up once from the game.
Was it a quick game or was it?
No, it was a long time control, typical of the CCA events. And she might have gotten up a couple of times, but she didn't stray far from the board. She was clearly working hard during the course of the game, and I had to play a very good game in order to beat her. And so, she played moves that I didn't consider some of the choices that she played. So I was impressed with some of her, resourcefulness in the game. And at that point, it dawned on me that this is not your normal 8-year-old player. She became an expert, I think, shortly afterwards. She might have still been 1900. And in the tournament that she became an expert in, she beat international master Jay Bonin. So right there, that tells you something.
How is I know Jay has not been well. So some listeners and fans of New York chess may know who Jay Bonin is, the Iron Man of chess, and certainly one of the most beloved figures on the New York chess scene.
Yes.
Do you have any idea how he's doing these days?
Yeah, I do. I get updates from his brother Robert, and he was in the ICU and had some surgeries done. He was in a medically induced coma for a bit. They brought him out of it, and he's been upgraded from the ICU to med-surg. So he's gaining strength in his position in his struggle.
Well, that is excellent to hear.
Yeah, we're very, very happy about that. For those who've been following it, Jay's a great guy. He's a close friend, and I want nothing but the best for him.
Absolutely, I think that's one thing that everybody can agree on in these divisive days, which is rare enough. So you were impressed by her at the board, but then as you got to know her a little bit and got to know the family a little bit, I got the sense that you were even more impressed. So tell us a little bit about what you learned writing the story and what you take away from the process.
Yeah. So over the board, definitely impressed. When I interviewed her for the story, again, she exhibited great poise in her responses. She is not a typical 8 or 9-year-old in how she answers questions. She's very thankful. She's very courteous. And it was interesting when I interviewed her because, I asked her a lot of questions like, who are your favorite players? And she, you would expect names like Fischer or Kasparov or Carlsen, and she clearly had players that inspire her. She mentioned first and foremost Carissa Yip, who had a breakthrough moment this year at the U.S. Women's Championship. And when I pressed her even more, she says, "Oh yeah, I also like Jennifer Yu." So she didn't buckle under my questioning to try and get a male role model. She's clearly influenced by other female players, which I thought was great.
And I think that's certainly testament to the growth of women's chess here in America through the work of people like Jen Shahade and some of the stuff that St. Louis is doing. Talk about two great role models.
And also I also like to mention the U.S. Women's Committee and my friend Kimberly Du McVeigh are doing good things to support women's chess and girls' chess in the States here. And so, and that's something I'm very supportive of. We have Irina Krush as a grandmaster. That's a great start. Irina is a great role model for girls, but we need more girls grandmasters in the future.
And with any luck, maybe Megan will someday make it there. I wanted to ask you, we couldn't actually print the whole study, but there's a photo of her at the board, and it ended up getting into the magazine in slightly cropped down form, so you can't see the whole thing. Uh-huh. But she's doing a study she's solving a study with a clock. So she's got a certain amount of time to solve this study, and it's a pretty difficult one by Yochichan Afek. I probably said his name wrong, but is that the sort of training that she does on a regular basis? Is it like, 'cause she's not doing simple tactics; she's doing serious work.
Well, I know her father, John Vince, is the one doing the daily training with her. And he had the benefit of growing up with his brother Mark and was very familiar with what Mark did to become, I think, the youngest Filipino grandmaster at the time. And so he's going through I think the paces of what he knew was successful for his brother. And I know Mark also does some work with Megan, but not with any consistent schedule. Maybe once every 6 weeks to 2 months, he'll review some games that she's played with her. And I'm just wondering, at what point does she move on, maybe to work with Mark, maybe to work with somebody else? Her dad is an expert himself, so he's a good player. But at some point, I wonder when she'll progress to even more rigorous and a higher trainer, if you will.
Yeah. If she's going to be doing more rigorous things, I'm wow. Because I think I'll try to find that study and put it up as part of the show notes for this. When people see, I think it's like 13 moves you have to figure out in order to get the point of the study, and those things are beyond me.
Studies are great because they really open up the mind. They normally feature an elegant solution of some sort, so it really can help you with your creativity in chess. So I do recommend studies as a way to be a part of your chess training.
And for people who are interested more on that, we have a article by Kostya Kavutsky in the March issue on exactly that topic, on using studies to improve your creativity and calculation. So take a look at that.
I'm in good company then.
You're in very good company.
Yeah. So
now you're a chess teacher in New York, and I think for anybody who is not familiar with how big scholastic chess in New York is right now, I think that they might be surprised by what's going on there. Can you tell us just a little bit about what the New York scholastic scene is like, and what your sense of its direction is?
Sure. Well, scholastic chess has, for the last couple of decades, and even before that, has been very popular in New York City, and even before the pandemic, it was surging to higher levels. And I think that when we're going to start to see how we come out of the pandemic, because one of the main kind of monthly tournaments that we have is the Hunter tournaments that are run by Neil Weir-Mantry. And so that's going to start resuming now at the end of March. So I know they're going to do it at a reduced amount of entries to get started again. And I think they're going to limit it to about 175 entries, if I'm correct. And normally that's a tournament that would be over 300 people. So they're just kind of easing back to it. But it's a good sign that tournament in particular is returning, because that is a tournament that serious tournament players in New York City gravitate towards.
Do you get a sense that the pandemic boosted the interest in chess? I know here in Nebraska, it's certainly a very different sort of scene than in New York City, but we've seen what feels like explosive growth and interest on the scholastic level. I'm not sure if it's the Queen's Gambit effect or if it's the kids were, the kids were just looking for things to do, and the parents. Chess is perfectly suited to a pandemic situation. You can do it online, and it doesn't suffer that much. What's your take of this? How is it different now, as we're beginning to, as you say, come out of the pandemic, than it was, say in 2019?
Sure. I think certainly there is a lot of pent-up demand. And when I also am a tournament director, and I work at Continental Chess Association events, and I see that that tournaments have had strong entries compared to pre-pandemic levels. So we're setting some records in those regards. I know we're in a healthy state, that we're ready to roar back when all the restrictions are gone and restricted. And I think especially there's a lot of pent up demand for scholastic tournaments too, because for the most part they've been online, and we've had some, like Orlando did happen this year. So that was good. The New York State Scholastic Chess Tournament Championship is going to be in 2 weeks in Saratoga Springs. So I think they'll have several hundred entries right now, with more within the last 2 weeks. So I think it's going to come roaring back, and I can't wait to have it be back to normal.
I was pleased to see that Continental Chess is running a tournament in Des Moines, Iowa in June. It is the first time in my memory, at least I've been out here for 13 years now. It's the first time there's been one in Iowa. It's growing everywhere, and I was thrilled to see it. So, Harold, if you're there.
I may actually play in that one.
Really?
Yeah.
Well then, all right. Well, I'm debating this because I'm supposed to go work the National Open. I'm supposed to go do some things out there, but it's the weekend after it, and I was like, well, but if you're going to be there, I might make the drive.
Well, for those of you who don't know, the Internet Chess Club (ICC), one of their founders, Marty Grund, lives out there. And he's excited about the tournament, and so it's. I may go visit him as part of that, and I want to travel a lot this summer and play chess around the country. And so Iowa, visiting Marty out there. Also, one of another ICC person, Terry Winchester, lives in Indiana, and I said we should play in a tournament somewhere. And we mentioned maybe the one in Iowa, so maybe we'll play that one together and see Marty while we're out there.
All right. Well, first beverage of your choice is on me then. So let's talk about the book, because it just came out just some weeks ago, and I got to tell you, Harold, I used to be the book reviewer for Chess Life. I used to get books sent to me all the time. Those days are gone. So I have to pay for all my books now. And this was a book, as soon as I saw it available.
Oh, we'll have to get you one.
No, I bought it. I was glad to buy it.
That's right. Yeah.
And I got to tell you, obviously I didn't play through all the games in one day, but I read, all the text, all the stories in one day. And it was a delight. Brought back so many memories of, just when I was cutting my teeth, in the very late 80s, early 90s, all the stories you have in there, the von Neumann affair, the stories about the Soviet emigres, it's fantastic book.
Oh, thank you.
How'd this book come to be? How did you and Joel decide to do it?
Sure. Well, Joel and I have been friends for many years. And in recent years, when I moved back to New York City, we became coaches together on the same team. We were coaches at Columbia Grammar School in New York City, which is a program run by Sophia Road. And so we would go to states, cities, nationals. We'd have a lot of time to spend. And often he would see me come back from the bookstore, and I'm an avid collector of chess books myself. I probably have over 2,000 and just surrounding me in my library, in my office here. And I said, Joel, someday, I would like to write a book of my own. That's a bucket list item for me. And he says, well, Harold, if you come up with a good idea that you want to bring to light, I'll help you. And and help means varying degrees of things. Either he can make suggestions, tell me, what I can do to write a proposal and send to a publisher. But it just so happens that this book he had a particular interest in, because nobody has tied for first or won World Opens more so than him. He's a 6-time World Open champion, in this tournament. Nobody has done more. 5 times. There's a few people beneath him in that hierarchy, and so it's a book that he really needed to be involved with because of his rich history in the tournament. So I had a great pilot to guide me and be his co-pilot in this. So I'm forever grateful that he just because Joel, let's face it, Joel didn't need to write a book with me. He's a well-established author, and he's a very popular author. His books do very well, and so I was honored that he would do such a project with me.
How did you guys divide the work?
Okay. So it actually came together quite organically. Obviously, we knew Joel was going to do the annotations because even though I annotate games well, and I have for my students, is not in the class of GM Joel Benjamin. So he was going to do the chess work, but I had the heavy lifting of the research of the tournament, and I had to go back through the periodicals, all the chess lives. We also had Inside Chess. We had New in Chess magazine. We had Chess Chow, Joel Benjamin's old magazine, which was great. I used to love that back in the day.
That is, as a collector, that's still one of my need to gets is I need to complete my Chess Chow collection. So Joel, if you hear this, help me out, please.
He has some issues there.
We're going to make this happen then.
Yeah, and I think Fred Wilson in New York City has a complete set, unless somebody's bought it. But last time I was at a store, he had a complete set.
Well, I might have to reach out to him. When I was at the teams in 2020, before everything exploded, I ended up, he brought, I think, one of the year's 6 issues, and I bought that, and I was really excited to do that. We're going to talk about the teams in a minute, but so you really had to you had to do a lot of work to do a lot of research and find all this stuff.
Well, I did, and so it took a lot of time, but it came together quite nicely. And the neat thing is Joel and I, we worked kind of independent. We got together on Zoom every now and then to discuss some things, but mostly we were working independent of each other, and we didn't really have any redundancies. It just came together nicely. He knew what he had to do, and I felt like I knew what I had to do on the project. But what was really great about the project is we had these grandmaster interviews that we did. I think we interviewed something like 16 players who have won our World Open Heroes, and what they were was people who won the event on multiple occasions. And so we had people like John Fedorovich, we had people like Nick DeFermi and Larry Christensen, we had Alex Yermolinsky, Alexander Shabalov, Ilya Smirin, Hikaru Nakamura. So we had many great interviews, and Joel and I, we were both looking for different aspects of what they were saying from this interview. Joel was primarily focused on, okay, what were your best games from the World Open? What were your most critical games from the World Open? What was your mindset going into these games? What kind of preparation did you do for this? And he was really trying to get those key moments and special situations and great games out of our people we were interviewing. And I was looking for something a little bit different from the information. I was looking for, certainly some biographical information, but I wanted to find teachable moments from their approach to open tournaments. And we found a lot of interesting stuff from that. So Joel was looking specifically at the best games, great games, and I was just trying to find something about their open tournament DNA if you will. And I was real pleased the way it come out, these individual chapters on our World Open heroes.
It's interesting to hear you say that, because it's very clear that the title is doing sort of double duty. I mean, winning the World Open, it's talking about the people who won it, but it's also talking about the nuts and bolts of how you go about winning a tournament like that. Because even if you're a grandmaster, it's not easy.
No.
And the book really does a really nice job of sort of giving you both parts of that. So again, I feel like anybody who is interested in the history of American chess and our great players really should do themselves a favor and pick it up. It's a brilliant book.
And it chronicles this great tournament in American chess history that's been 49 years strong. This 2022 will be the 50th year. So I imagine there's going to be a strong turnout in Philly for that. I'm very excited. I think I've been a director the last bunch of years, but I think I'm going to play this year. So I'm excited about that.
I'm curious about exactly that. I mean, when I'm looking at things and looking at tournaments, I've done a lot of directing here in Nebraska. And, whether it was the pandemic or whether it's, I had some health issues and I'm fine now, but, it sort of changes your perspective a little bit, and you get a little older.
Sure.
And you start thinking, boy, why am I directing? Like, why aren't I playing? Do you feel that? Are you really itching to get out there and play more?
Oh yeah. When I'm at tournaments directing, I'm like, as much as I enjoy directing, I'm itching at that moment I should be playing, and then I get into the mindset, I need to get prepared and start playing in these tournaments. And so I'm going through those gyrations in my mind while I'm directing a tournament. So
we should talk about that. I was going to ask you that at the end, but I mean, you're a pretty strong player. I mean, you're an expert. You've been an expert for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You do seem to get to play semi-regularly. I mean, you're in New York. There's opportunity. How is your game? What are you doing to improve? Like what are the things that a chess teacher like Harold Scott does to try to up their game?
Yeah, well, right now it's difficult to do that with any kind of regularly, because I have like an insane teaching and coaching schedule. So I'm quite busy. I teach at several different schools, but my main school is Avenues, the World School, where I'm head coach and lead instructor at. So, and I take a lot of time preparing my lessons with my students and with my classes and so forth. So right now there's very little stuff I am doing to work on my game personally. I hope as I get towards the end of the school year, then I can sort of drift into that mode again. But there's a lot of things that I do for my preparation. Openings, oddly, will not be a large part of that. Certainly, there's tactical work that I'll do, but there's things such as end games that I'll study quite a bit, and also there's kind of like typical positions and situations that you get in games that I'll go over, like piece imbalances, like the bishop pair versus bishop and knight. Let's say there are a lot of good books out there nowadays that show these different type of positions, playing with and against the isolated pawn, for example. Those type of positions that you want to learn to play those like a machine and know the middle game theory behind that. So that's more the type of work that I'll do, as opposed to of course you got to do some opening work, but I want to learn to play chess and not just play openings.
It's interesting to hear you say that, and I'm curious about so we've talked about books.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still a book guy? I mean, you obviously you are. You got 2,000 books there, but are you sort of making the transition like everybody else in the world seems to be making to Chessable or tactical trainers like Chess Tempo or things like that. Or are you still sort of really sticking with paper?
No, with tactics, I think you have to do a tactical trainer because the pieces and positions are just set up there, and you can go through one puzzle after another, and you can target certain areas. There's so much that is better than print chess books, but print is good to now and then. If you want to take a book and just be away from the computer, you can do that too. So yeah, you have to use a tactics trainer. Chessable, I am warming up more and more to that idea as far as to train openings and opening positions for that. But for the most part, I'm still a book, very heavy book driven kind of guy.
Do you have some favorite books you might want to mention as being either personally important or particularly useful?
Yeah, well, I actually have a chess coach, and it's Estradios Grievous.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, he's a highly respected coach. He's in the United Arab Emirates right now, and he's the he runs the Sharjah chess program, which is I think the largest club out there. So he's a great teacher. He's kind of got me on that path of learn to play chess. And actually the reason why I got together with Estradios is at the beginning of the pandemic. I wanted somebody not only that could help me with my game, but as a FIDE senior trainer as he was, I wanted to help him actually have me help me improve as a chess teacher as well. So I got together with him for reasons that were twofold, and and in fact he encouraged me as a chess teacher to write. And he's got a numerous amount of books that are going to be coming out and have come out in the last couple of years. But I don't think that I would have embarked on such a project with Joel without his encouragement to start writing. I was writing lessons, and I was getting more comfortable writing. So I have to credit him quite a bit as well.
You guys had I hear a very well received book signing at the Amateur Team East.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit, because it sounds like it was a pretty neat experience.
Yeah, it was. I got to meet some new people, make some new friends, people that I didn't know. And then I got to see old friends as well that were there that bought the book from us and had us sign. So I was very honored to do that. It was my first book signing. So that was a lot of fun. And we were doing another book signing in 2 weeks at the New York State Scholastic Championship up in Saratoga Springs. And certainly the big one should be at the World Open this year itself. So we're looking forward to that as well. But, so yeah, it was a very enjoyable experience. I got to feel special for a day.
It must have been, I having been to the teams, and I want to talk about the teams a little bit, because I think for anyone who has not been there, they don't understand how absolutely incredible it is. U.S. Chess sent a team in 2020, right before the world shut down.
I remember seeing you there.
Yeah, it was my first trip to the teams, and I mean, I grew up in New York. I grew up on Long Island. I should be precise, because there are people who will chastise me if I'm not precise.
We have that in common. Yeah.
But I'd never been, and it is everything people say it is. 1,300 people. Everybody knows everybody, and they're all there playing chess, and it's there are not enough superlatives for the job that Steve Doyle and his entire team, which includes you, do every year to make this happen. So let's talk about this. How did you get involved with the teams? What's your backstory there?
I was Sophia Rode recommended me to like 5 years ago. She couldn't make it that year, and I so they had an open spot on the TD staff. And so I worked there, and on the first day, Steve Doyle says to me, he says, "Harold, you realize you're a permanent member of the staff here, right?" And I said, "Okay." Which was a nice compliment from him. And I've enjoyed being there every year since. It's a relaxed situation where at times it doesn't seem like it's a tournament. When you work a serious tournament like the World Open or whatever, there's a lot of demands that are put on you to be at the top of your game. But it's I think a more relaxed situation because people are there to have a good time. The camaraderie of the teams, people are in a very good mood, there are people that come to this tournament that you might not see the remainder of the year, just people that come out specifically for this tournament. So that should be mentioned as well. It's a special tournament. And in fact, people have been asking me, they said, if this book on the World Open does well, would you write a book on the amateur team championship? And I actually consider the idea, and I'm not sure, yes or no, if I'll venture down that road yet. But it certainly is. The tournament is deserving of somebody chronicling it from its early years to what's now the 52nd year this was. So it's a great tournament.
What was it like being back this year in person? What sorts of difficulties did you guys face bringing? What were you guys packed? Was it almost 1,300 this year?
No, we had less teams, and that was by design. Okay. They didn't want to pack in the main ballroom, as they left some more open space in the room there. So with COVID still around, they didn't want to pack it to the max like they do. So, and last year, I was a TD at the online version of the Amateur Team East. Was kind of interesting, and it came off well, but it's certainly nothing like the experience of being there in person. So it felt really good to be back this year. And I do have to say we lost a few members of our staff. Carol Jarecki passed away, Ken Ballou also passed away, and Joe Ippolito. So it was from a team standpoint of who was working the event. It was a different dynamic. We lost 3 wonderful people this year, and they were with us in spirit, I think, during the event. So we didn't forget about them. In fact, some of our young directors that were working there wore a bow tie in Ken Ballou's honor, because Ken would normally wear a bow tie. Yeah. So I thought that was a fitting tribute, and it was nice of them, nice of the young guys to remember Ken in that way.
I will say, my one experience there, and I'm looking forward to going back maybe next year if I can do it.
Good.
To see the generations, all the kids. I mean, there's so many kids, and they're all playing, and they're all, learning chess, and they're meeting people like Carol, or like Ken, or like Steve, or like Fed. I mean, these kids are getting to play. They're getting to play Fed.
Yeah,
and he's there. He's there telling stories, and
well, he doesn't tell stories. When Fed is sitting around, he holds court.
Yeah.
And anybody who wants to listen to his wonderful tales over the years, they're privileged to do so. Fed is obviously a good friend, and recently we've gone away to some tournaments together to where we've roomed at some tournaments, and so it's nice having his company. And he's going to play more, I think, over the summer. His wife Angela is retiring from school She's a teacher.
Congratulations to her.
And he's going to be able to travel around and play. So I'm glad he's one of those guys that, that still has the fire within him to play. So,
yeah, it's, as I say, I really recommend anybody who is listening, if you have not gotten to play in one of the team events, but especially the East, definitely it is one of those things you need to do before you close the book on your chess career.
Yeah.
So
we had people like my old friend Alan Cantor. He played in the South team event along with Evan Rabin, and then they both played but on different teams in the East. So there are some people that because of the timing being that one will be on a different weekend, that they'll play in multiple team events. So
yeah, it is one of the highlights of the American chess calendar.
Absolutely.
So that time of year.
I think it's my favorite tournament of all. So
yeah. I might agree with you on that. Harold, we're almost done, but I like to ask my interviewees a set of questions at the end. These questions are so intense, by the way, that they made Maxime Vachier-Lagrave dye his hair pink. So
okay.
I'm entirely attributing.
Well, I don't have much hair, so I won't have to worry about that.
We have that in common. Yeah. So I don't know if you remember Inside the Actors Studio, if you remember that TV show.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Lipton.
So James Lipton would ask everyone a set of questions at the end of the show. And the questions were made famous by him, but they were in fact inspired by Bernard Pivot in France, who actually based them on questionnaires by Marcel Proust.
Okay.
So I've taken those questions and I've modified some of them to avoid a few questions that might not work for a podcast format for a family-friendly kind of place like this. But I'm going to ask you 10 questions. And the point is just give us your first impressions. Don't overthink it.
Is it a rapid fire kind of response here? Kind of like
no. Well, I mean, you can take a second, but
okay.
You don't need to. You don't. This is not the sort of thing where we want deep cogitations for.
Uh-huh.
So, all right. So I'm going to go through it. Question number 1.
Okay.
What is your favorite word?
Favorite word. Endeavor.
Oh, that's good. Why endeavor?
Because it has to do with something positive.
I like that. All right. What is your least favorite word?
Probably a list of curse words,
Okay, then. you not a fan of the 4 letters?
Well, I do use curse words myself. A friend of mine, Harold Stenzel, as we know, I don't think I've known him for close to 40 years. I don't think I've ever heard him say a curse word once.
Wow.
And for those of you who don't know, he's a national tournament director, and he's run the Nassau Chess Club on Long Island since the mid 70s.
So yeah, and Harold is actually the TD after whom I patterned myself, and
I've been very influenced too, by him. Yeah.
Anyone who knows Harold shushes, if they come to one of my tournaments here in Nebraska, they will immediately recognize the tone and demeanor of mine, because it's all Harold.
Yeah.
What is your dream of happiness?
My dream of happiness?
Yes.
You know what? I lead a pretty happy life myself, and so it wouldn't vary too much what I do. My life consists of chess for the most part. So being able to travel around, see friends, play chess, or I don't even have to play sometimes. Being at an event and is just fun for me. So yeah, it revolves around chess. That's my happiness.
Towards what faults do you feel most indulgent?
What faults? So I guess as a chess player, you can tend to overanalyze situations. So, but in real life, just like in chess, you have to make a decision at some point before your flag falls.
Nicely put. Who would you like to see on a new on a new banknote?
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
What opening do you love?
The Grievous Sicilian, for obvious reasons.
Filing that away in case we meet over the board. What opening do you hate?
Because it's annoying to play against, is like the Benko Gambit. I tend to decline it. I don't like to give my opponent active play if I can help it, And it's just nagging positional pressure.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Well, I have had a career prior to my career in chess, where I was an accountant. I was a corporate accountant at a hospital in Florida for 15 years, and I was also a realtor. So right now, for the rest of my days, it's strictly going to be chess.
What profession would you really prefer not to do?
Just be a corporate, any sort of corporate, where 9 to 5 kind of guy, where I just don't want to be in that environment again. So, not that I had a bad experience or anything like that, but it's so much nicer being your own boss in the chess world, and there's nothing bad about it.
Final question, Harold Scott.
Okay.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Hope you had a nice life and enjoyed it, and welcome.
There you go.
Yeah.
Harold Scott is the co-author of Winning the World Open with Grandmaster Joel Benjamin. If you are a Continental Chess Association tournament player, you may see him at a tournament there, or you might see him at the New York State Scholastic Championship in Saratoga Springs in just under 2 weeks by the time this podcast is released. Harold, if somebody wants to reach you via social media or email, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I'm easily reached on Facebook.
Okay. Harold Scott on Facebook. If anybody wants to reach out, maybe you have a contribution for the second volume of Winning the World Open. Who knows?
You never know.
You never know. Harold, thank you so much for taking the time. And I really appreciate it.
John, thank you so much. I appreciate everything you do. And it was fun.
Thank you for listening to this edition of Cover Stories with Chess Life. Our podcast will return next month on the first Tuesday, when we will again be making a deep dive into the pages of Chess Life magazine. US Chess is a 501c3 nonprofit organization whose educational mission is to empower people, enrich lives, and enhance communities through chess. To become a member, go to uschess.org and click on the Join button, where you can find a membership option that is right for you. As a member, you enjoy rated play, print and digital copies of Chess Life or Chess Life Kids, and you help US Chess grow the game. If you're already a member, consider clicking on the donate button at uschess.org. Our podcasts are produced and edited by Jason Andre at Seven Season Films Photography and Media. Please visit sevenseasonfilms.com to find out how to start your own podcast. Thank you, and good chess.